The Colorado Rockies' struggles on the diamond continue as they fall today to the New York Mets by a final score of 7-3, which unfortunately clinches a series loss for them. And the home run was working for both teams today, but that was how the Rockies managed to manufacture their runs. And outside of that, not a whole lot. Ryan Feltner struggles on the mound. Bullpen not doing great either. And we'll break it all down on our Locked On Rockies postcast here as we get started on this Saturday, July the 13th, as the Rockies lose to the New York Mets 7-3. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rockies POSTCAST, powered by Mile High Sports, part of Locked On Sports Denver on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
It is your Locked On Rockies postcast. Hope everybody is doing well out there on this Saturday, July the 13th. I know it's a hot one out there. Yesterday was brutal. Today was brutal. And tomorrow is going to be brutal with the heat. So if you're inside listening or watching the podcast, I appreciate you. And I'm your host, Aniello Piro. You can follow me on social media at Media by AP. And make sure to subscribe to this brand new Locked On Denver Sports YouTube channel so you never miss an episode of your Locked On Rockies postcast. And that's not all, folks. Football season's around the corner, so you're going to get some football content on this channel. Basketball season shortly thereafter, so make sure to subscribe to the Locked On Denver Sports YouTube channel so you don't miss what is coming down the pipes between Locked On Sports and Mile High Sports. So looking forward to that. And, not really looking forward to talking about this game for the Rockies because it was another dud for them, as they fall now to 33-63, of course, in fifth place in the National League West. And the New York Mets stay hot. They are 49-45. So just to put this into perspective, folks, I think, let me also say this. I did not do a postcast last night. I can't really get it in the screen, but I was at the Billy Joel show at Coors Field. It's a little New York connection, a little Coors Field baseball connection as well. For someone who's 75 years old, Billy Joel can still bring it, man. Wow, what a show. So apologies for no postcast last night. I was at the Billy Joel show with my folks. But what I wanted to start with here is, like I said, the Rockies at 33-63, the Mets at 49-45. When I started doing this postcast, I want to say it was at the end of May is when I started doing these shows with right here on the Locked On channel. I believe the Mets were only about, less than 10 games better than the Rockies record-wise. They were probably, 5, 6, maybe 7 wins better than the Rockies when I started doing this postcast. And, just to kind of put it in perspective, and look, the Mets, I saw something this morning, have the best record in Major League Baseball since the end of May. So it may be a little bit of an outlier, but, it shows you what recovery looks like, in the middle of the baseball season, because the Mets got out to an awful start this year. April and May were just absolutely brutal for them. And now they've turned it around and they find themselves in third place in the National League East at 49-45, but within striking distance now of a playoff spot in the National League. And, it still holds true, unfortunately, that there's pretty much only 2 teams in the National League that have no hope of making the playoffs. And it's the Colorado Rockies and the Miami Marlins. And so I just think it's interesting that with a team in a series like we've seen over the last couple of days, kind of the duality of the two franchises and how things have progressed despite the rough starts. So it is interesting. All right, let's take a look at the game flow here. The Rockies in 9 innings, losing today 7-3 to the New York Mets. We'll spend a majority of the second segment talking about Ryan Feltner and his outing today, as he was not able to bring much on the diamond today. And, pretty quiet for the most part until the first inning was quiet, rather, I should add, because the Mets just blew it up here in the second inning, where they ended up scoring 4 runs off of Ryan Feltner. So it started out with a Pete Alonso single to left field, and then a walk, which has just been absolutely crushing the Rockies as of late, to DJ Stewart. So the Mets find themselves to lead off the bottom of the second inning. I mean, really early in this game, with 2 runners on and no outs. And then from there, Mark Vientos lines out for the first out of the inning and another walk. I mean, this is just going to continue to kill the Rockies. You can just, when you're giving up, 2 runners on base for free and all these passes and whatnot, I mean, you're just threading the needle when it comes to trying to find success out here on the mound. It's a walk to Ben Gamel, and then Luis Torrens, hits into a fielder's choice, but that ends up scoring 2 runs thanks to a throwing error from Brendan Rodgers. So, between the walks and then the error from Rogers there, just not doing yourself many favors if you're the Rockies in this game. And, maybe the Mets only score one run off of that fielder's choice, right? And they end up scoring two, in part due to that throwing error from Brendan Rodgers. So, we've unfortunately, we've seen this story time and time again. We've seen the Rockies beat themselves. We know that I don't want to say they're devoid of talent, but we know the Rockies aren't collectively the most talented team in Major League Baseball, right? And I think when that's the case, you can't afford to give your team ample opportunities or additional opportunities to score runs or, best you in any way in which they might be able to do. And you got to give credit where credit is due to the Mets today in doing that. And so, we find ourselves here with a 2-0 score before Jeff McNeil then hits his 13th double of the season to left field. Ben Gamble scores, who reached base on a walk, and Luis Torrens, who reached base on the fielder's choice. Both come around to score. So here we are now in the bottom of the second inning, and the Rockies have already dug themselves a 4-0 hole. Now, a 4-0 hole is obviously nothing to sneeze at, but it's manageable. If you've got a decent offense that you can rely on, and you can get consistent hits to try to dig yourself out of that hole. And as we all know, the Rockies' offense is the definition of a shaky and hit or miss. And so, you're just not going to, like I said, you're not doing yourself any favors when you put yourself in these positions if you are the Colorado Rockies. So that's how the Mets get the scoring started in this ball game today. And it really didn't even stop from there. There was another walk in that inning. Francisco Lindor had a walk in the bottom of the second inning. And then, mercifully, Brandon Nimmo strikes out and JD Martinez grounds out, the middle of that Mets lineup. So, that's how the scoring gets started in this game today. Walks come back to hurt the Rockies and Mr. Feltner in particular, and a throwing error as well from Brendan Rodgers, excuse me. And then the Rockies get the scoring started. They did respond here in the top of the third inning. Jake Cave hit his second home run of the season to left field. That made it 4-1. And, Jake Cave's, we talk about Jake Cave a good amount on this postcast here. He's one of those scrappy clubhouse guys, a journeyman type that, maybe the results aren't there every night for him, but he's going to play hard when he's in the lineup. He's a solid defender, and, at least nice to see him make contact with the ball here and drive his second home run of the season. But then, the Rockies just aren't able to really generate anything after that. Michael Toglia with a line out to left field, Sam Hilliard with a double, and then just nothing cracking there for the Rockies. Charlie Blackmon grounds out, Ezekiel Tovar flies out. That's all she wrote. So the Rockies unable to narrow the gap even further. They did get one run, as we said, there in the fourth inning, or in the top of the third inning, excuse me, but nothing really cooking for them beyond that. And then we had a clean fourth inning before the Rockies, kept themselves in this game a little bit in the fifth inning here, where they managed to score a couple of runs thanks to a Charlie Blackmon home run. Michael Toglia led off the inning, striking out swinging, but then Sam Hilliard drove a single to right field, and then Charlie Blackmon brought him home and himself home with his sixth home run of the year, a home run to right field, and that made it 4-3. So, what I was just talking about a couple of minutes ago with 4-0 hole, nothing to sneeze at, all that kind of stuff. This is proof that you can chip away, and, put yourself in a position to try to either take a lead or be competitive or just keep this game close. And that's exactly what the Rockies did there in the bottom of the fifth inning. But then, as we'll talk about here in a moment, the bullpen, just unable to lock it in for them. We had a clean frame in the sixth, a clean frame in the seventh, before the Mets absolutely blew this game open in the eighth inning, and how we got to our final score here of 7-3. Mark Vientos led off the bottom of the eighth inning with a fly out to center field, another walk for Ben Gamble, and then Luis Torrens hit by a pitch. So that's how you're going to get two runners on there for essentially free. A walk and a hit by pitch, not exactly making the Mets earn their keep in this game offensively. But like I said, you got to give credit where credit is due. After Jeff McNeil pops out to the third baseman, Ryan McMahon, Francisco Lindor blasts his 17th home run of the season, a straight shot to dead center field. And that made the score 7-4. The Rockies went down pretty mercifully after that. And, just one of those games where the Rockies, I don't want to say that the final score isn't reflective of how competitive this game was, because you can't give up a 3-run home run where they did there in the bottom of the eighth inning, excuse me. But at the end of the day, this was another winnable type of situation for the Rockies. Feltner gets shelled there early, but their offense does a good job of, kind of crawling back just for the bullpen to go ahead and, give it away, for lack of a better phrase. And let's see, who was it? It was Victor Vodnik who gave up the home run, which is a shame because he's been one of the more reliable guys, if you could even use that word to describe the Rockies bullpen. But that is how we got to our final score of 7-4 as the Rockies today fall to the New York Mets. All right, let's hit our first break. When we come back, we'll continue along with the conversation right here on your Locked On Rockies postcast. Stick with us, and we'll be back in just a few minutes. This episode of the Locked On Rockies postcast is brought to you by Booking.com, Booking.yeah. And with the summer travel heating up, especially travel for baseball games, it's time to explore those U.S. cities you have always secretly wanted to learn more about. And yes, we're talking about your rival cities. So we're talking about Los Angeles. We're talking about San Diego. We're talking about San Francisco. We're talking about the greater Phoenix area. And with hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com, you might just find your perfect stay, even if it's in your rival city. From hotels that overlook stadiums to family-friendly resorts, Booking.com has so many choices across the U.S. for your summer travel this season. And like I said, guys, I have been to Dodger Stadium a ton. I want to get out to Petco down in the San Diego. I've always wanted to go down to San Francisco and catch a game at the Giants Stadium as well. And if I ever make that journey, I was out in Wrigley earlier this summer, probably going out to New York at some point this summer as well to go see the Mets play at Citi Field. I will be getting my reservations through Booking.com, and you should too. You know the brand. You've heard the commercials for as long as you've been alive, like if you're like me. Booking.com, Booking.yeah. Be sure to check them out because you can become a fan of your rival cities. And the right stay can make you a fan of any U.S. city, even your rivals. Book today on Booking.com, on the site, or on the Booking.com app. Be sure to check them out. Booking.com, Booking.yeah. All right. And let me also tell you about our friends over at PrizePicks, because PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. And unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the PrizePicks community today. And now you can win up to 100 times your money on PrizePicks with as little as 4 correct picks. You can turn $10 into $1,000. And if you're looking for promotions, PrizePicks has got you covered every week, from lowering select player stats projections on Tuesdays to help your lineup hit, or getting your entry fees back if you have a losing lineup on Fridays. Our friends over at PrizePicks have you covered with all the promos. With the finals over, the hoops action does not stop on PrizePicks. Women's basketball is still heating up with stars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese looking to make names for themselves alongside the greats like Breanna Stewart and Asia Wilson. You can win up to 100 times your cash watching them ball out only on PrizePicks. And PrizePicks is available in more than 30 states across the country, including California, Texas, and Georgia. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB for a first deposit match of up to $100. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on PrizePicks for a deposit match of up to $100. Pick more, pick less. It is that easy with our friends over at PrizePicks. Be sure to check them out to let them know that Locked On MLB sent you. And again, use code Locked On MLB for a first deposit match of up to $100. Let's see. So we got a comment. Oh, wait, hold on. Hold on. I had to play my little outro video there real quick for when I break it up after the fact. But I saw we got a YouTube comment here. Mets bullpen got a 10 ERA and we couldn't hit them. Yeah, man. And look, the Rockies almost managed to win the game last night, because of how bad that Mets bullpen has been. And I wonder if maybe the Mets try to add some depth to that bullpen with the trade deadline approaching, because it actually seems like the Mets here are going to have a chance, to make the playoffs with how hot they've been as of late. But that has just unfortunately been the story with this Rockies club. And I'm looking to my right now. We got Buddy Black on the TV talking about the game. Charlie Blackmon 1 for 4. Ezequiel Tovar 2 for 4. Let's see. Let's pick it all up here real quick. 2 for 4, like I said, for Blackmon, or 2 for 4 for Tovar, excuse me. Ryan McMahon had a hit. Elias Diaz, who's been a little up and down since coming back off the IL. Brenton Doyle had a base hit. He stays hot. Brendan Rodgers 0-4 today. Jake Cave, we mentioned, with the home run. Toglia with 2 strikeouts, and Sam Hilliard with a pair of hits. So they actually did get a decent amount of hits. Did the Rockies. They out-hit the Mets today 8-6. But it was the timeliness, I would say, of the hitting for the Mets, right? You take advantage of, and really the damage could have been limited had it been, you just give up the double, the RBI double, the solo shots, whatever it might be. It's when you're giving up the walks and you have the errors that we saw from Brendan Rodgers that I think, really helped put this team in a hole that they almost crawled out of until Francisco Lindor managed to do what he does and put the Mets ahead, 7-4, and they did not look back from that point on at the end of the game. But let's talk about starting pitcher Ryan Feltner today. He was not very good, as we had mentioned in the early going. Only 3 2/3 innings pitched for Feltner. He gave up 2 hits, 4 runs. Only 3 of them are because of that throwing error from Brendan Rodgers, as we've alluded to multiple times on the show. And then 5 walks, which is an extreme number for a starting pitcher. He did have 7 strikeouts, but if he's able to kind of come in, which is crazy, 7 strikeouts and 3 2/3 innings pitched for Ryan Feltner. So, clearly his stuff was working to an extent, but the command was absolutely all over the place. And, it's just one of those situations where when you have to rely on this bullpen, and for the majority of this game, the bullpen actually did a decent job. Justin Lawrence came in an inning in a third of clean work, only gave up 1 hit, struck out 2. Tyler Kinley came in for an inning in relief. He gave up 1 hit, struck out 1. And then we mentioned Victor Vodnik, an inning in a third, the 2 runs allowed there as well. And Jalen Beeks at the end of the game too. So, there's just a lot of moving parts with this Rockies club right now. But when you're asking your bullpen to, throw you 4+, 5+ innings in relief a game, which seems to be the case, with this Rockies teams at multiple times throughout the season, your margin for victory just goes down and down and down and down. And so, that's where, if I'm the Rockies, you got to hope that you can get more longevity out of your starting pitchers. And in the final segment of the show, we'll talk about German Marquez, who's set to return from the injured list. Let me actually pull that up real quick. Which is going to be great. And I have a lot of thoughts about German Marquez, because Marquez, I was covering the team like in person on a day-to-day basis when Marquez was coming up around the club. Yeah, he'll start tomorrow. So that'll be nice to see him get back on the mound there. Hopefully that can help push the Rockies and give them some momentum. And look, guys that have come back off the injured list for the Rockies in the pitching department have been pretty good this season. I'm looking at a guy like Kyle Freeland, who's made I believe now 4 starts since coming back off the injured list, and has been not just good, but great in all 4 of those starts. And it's just helped relieve this bullpen a little bit for the Rockies. So, just tough sledding for Ryan Feltner today. He drops to 1-9 on the season. And I know wins and losses is not the end all be all, when it comes to judging the success of a starting pitcher, but it is frustrating where, Feltner's had a couple of tough breaks where he's gone out there and done his part and the Rockies offense has failed him. Today it was a little bit of vice versa, where the Rockies offense kept them in the game. But Ryan Feltner today just not good enough. 3 2/3 innings pitched, gives up 2 hits, 4 runs. Only 3 of them earned, 5 walks, which is brutal. And I cannot harp on that enough. The 5 walks is just going to get you nowhere. And, as we saw in the comment here earlier, the Mets bullpen, they've got a 10 ERA and we could not hit them. And, we as in the Rockies, it was very much like last night where you saw the Rockies kind of get back into that game because of how bad the Mets bullpen has been. And, I think that also just speaks where the Rockies struggle. And look, you can't muster out these runs and take advantage of bad bullpens every single time. Like, all that does, I think, is increase your likelihood for success. But at the end of the day, like, the fact that the Rockies, after doing it last night, were unable to follow it up today against a bullpen that is not very good, I think just again speaks to the lack of consistency and kind of the constant fluctuation that's taking place in that lineup. I mean, it's like I was with my dad last night at the Billy Joel concert, and when you walk in at Coors Field, they have like all of the lineup with like the pictures, right there behind home plate. He even turned to me. He's like, I don't even know who any of these guys are. And, there's just a lot of journeymen, a lot of young, unknown players, a lot of unknown commodities on this that are making up this Rockies lineup right now. And so it is kind of cross your fingers and hope that Brenton Doyle and Ezekiel Tovar can take you home at this point. Jake Cave contributed today. Toglia, those guys have been all right. But at the end of the day, it is disappointing that the Rockies were unable to take advantage against another sputtering bullpen here in the New York Mets bullpen. So we shall see. All right, let's hit our final break. When we come back, we'll put a bow on the show. I've got some thoughts on German Marquez making his season debut tomorrow against the New York Mets. Hopefully some good vibes. Hopefully some good energy comes out of that. And the Rockies limping into the All-Star break. We'll do a little All-Star forecast as well. Obviously, Ryan McMahon going to represent the Rockies. And, I think I speak for most Rockies fans and probably the players too when I say this. I think everybody's looking forward to a couple of days to kind of reset, kick back, relax, and kind of refresh themselves and hopefully, lock in here for the rest of July, August, September, down the home stretch of this Major League Baseball season. So stick with us. We'll hit a quick break. We'll come back and do just that right here on your Locked On Rockies postcast. I'm your host, Aniello Piro, back in just a minute or so. All right, guys, let me tell you about our friends over at Supply House real quick, because you're going to want to get your supplies from the site that's made for the skilled trade, supplyhouse.com. Supplyhouse.com is the reliable way to order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Shop a complete inventory of over 200,000 parts from over 400 top brands and get your order delivered right to your door with fast shipping from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Get expert support and industry-leading service from the friendliest folks in the business, and talk to a real person every single time. I can't tell you how much I love that with our friends over at Supply House, guys. I mean, everything seems to be run by AI or robots these days. Our friends over at Supply House are going to make sure you talk to a real person every single time. And pros in the skilled trades can get a competitive edge by joining supplyhouse.com's free trade master program. Every trade master gets access to a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every single order. Join the thousands of trade pros already benefiting from their free memberships at supplyhouse.com/TM and order plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies from anywhere with just a few clicks at supplyhouse.com. Again, be sure to visit them at www.supplyhouse.com for all of your plumbing, HVAC, and electrical product needs. Let them know that the Locked On Rockies postcast sent you, and they'll take good care of you. And let me tell you about our friends over at FanDuel, because I love sports. I love them so much, and I never want them to stop. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer and fewer games. And the sports, well, they just aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports world going whenever I want. All I have to do is open up the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel is an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. And I always like to say this when I'm doing the FanDuel read. If the Rockies are going to be as bad as they have been lately, you might as well bet against them. And in the instance where the Rockies win the game, emotionally, you're going to win. In the instance where the Rockies lose the game, you're going to win a little cheddar in your pocket as well. So be sure to check out our friends over at FanDuel.com. I love FanDuel. I'm an active user. We got some UFC fights that I'm going to be betting tonight, and I'll be doing it on FanDuel. So check them out and let them know that Locked On Sports sent you. All right, welcome on back into your Locked On Rockies postcast. Getting ready to wind down here on this Saturday, July the 13th, because it's nice out, right? Get outside. It's a summer day. Don't let the Rockies drag you down. We'll talk about it. We'll get it out there, and then we'll get on our way here. And one thing real quick, I just did the FanDuel read coming out of the ad break that I wanted to mention. I had placed a wager on Paul Skeens to win the National League Cy Young Award on what was that, Thursday night, on that day where he threw 7 no-hit innings and was yanked prematurely. He is now right around plus 470. So in essentially 48 hours, Paul Skeens has gone from 12-1 odds to win the National League Cy Young to plus 470. He's also going to start the All-Star game. So, just crazy stuff, from Paul Skeens and what he's been doing, which is good for the Pittsburgh Pirates. A team much like the Rockies, their fan base have been starved of success here, it feels like, in recent years. So good for the Rockies, good for Paul Skeens. But I don't think I've ever seen odds, change as drastically as they have here, for Paul Skeens in the National League Cy Young Award. So, all right, as promised, let's talk about German Marquez, because he is on the mound tomorrow making his season debut. He will take on Jose Quintana of the New York Mets. Quintana is 4-5 with a 3.91 ERA and 71 strikeouts. And in regards to expectations for German Marquez, I think it's let's just get comfortable, right? You don't want to see German try to go out there and do too much. You want to see him go out there and, just kind of try to find his comfort zone, get back into the groove of being a major league pitcher and whatnot. Like I heard the guys on the TV broadcast at the end of the game, talking about German, and I believe it was Corey Sullivan was talking about either a Tommy John surgery that he had, or maybe it was a labrum surgery or whatever. But it is a long road to recovery. You're talking about 3 or 4 months of just absolutely nothing going on from a physical activity perspective after that Tommy John surgery. And then it's, you throw 10 pitches here, you throw 20 pitches there, 40 pitches here. It is a very slow and delicate process. And I'm sure the fact that Marquez has the green light to go out there tomorrow and is, likely back to 100% or pretty close to it, he's probably fired up. He's probably excited to get back out there and compete and whatnot. But you want to just make sure that you don't go a million miles an hour out of the gate. So I think my big thing for German Marquez tomorrow is it's a good opportunity against a hot Mets team, but not necessarily a deep Mets lineup. I know that they've been playing better as of late, but, there's some outs in this Mets lineup and, on the road, don't have to deal with the elevation or the altitude and whatnot. And so we'll see what German Marquez can do. But as I had mentioned earlier in this program as well, we saw Kyle Freeland after about 2 months on the injured list come off of the IL and has just been absolutely dominant for the Rockies, in his last 4 starts. So hopefully, we could be talking about a little bit of the more of the same here with German Marquez, because like I said, Lord knows the Rockies have got to they've got to figure out a way to get some more quality starting pitching so that they can try to stretch out this bullpen a little bit more and give some guys some, more rest and just, set the bullpen up for success. Because right now it's like if the starting pitcher doesn't have a good game, they're just kind of SOL and, just threading the needle with this bullpen. And these guys can only do so much. So I think German Marquez tomorrow, very excited to get him back on the diamond. And I hope that, hopefully he has similar results to that of Kyle Freeland, because like I said, the Rockies need some longevity for the starting rotation. But, when he's on, Marquez is a legitimate, front of the line starting pitcher. Maybe he's not that number one. That's the thing is, in my mind, German Marquez never really was like an ace type or a number one. Like on a legitimately competitive team in his prime, German Marquez is a legitimate 2 or 3 option and a darn good one at that. I think the Rockies were always asking him to be a little bit more than he actually was. But, at the end of the day, German Marquez is arguably the most talented starting pitcher in the Rockies organization. So getting a guy like that back in the mix is only going to help you. So we shall see. And like I said, hopefully they're getting a guy back that now that he's recovered from the injuries, had some time to rest, is going to look more so reminiscent of that 2018, 2019 version of himself. As opposed to the last couple of seasons. So we shall see. And then, my closing thought here for the Rockies, wipe the slate clean, man. You're going into this All-Star break. You got Ryan McMahon out there representing the organization. But beyond that, decompress, get away, try to recharge and reset the batteries a little bit, because the last 5 or 6 weeks for this club has been brutal. Just absolutely brutal. Much like today's game where they lose 7-4 to the New York Mets. I mean, the Rockies almost have twice as many losses they have wins. We're at 33, darn near 30. Yeah, 33 and 63. That's where we're at right now with this Rockies club. So we'll see. What happened to Cal Quantrill? Why was he scratched for tomorrow? I think it's because of German Marquez, and Quantrill is one of those guys that's kind of had a load on his shoulders. So I think there's a number of different factors, but I think they also probably like the idea of getting Marquez a start with a few days off with the All-Star break. So I think it kind of makes sense. And I guess that's one of the things that you can do, when you're well out of the playoff races. You don't have to kind of stick to a certain schedule. You can do what benefits you more in a certain moment. So I would imagine that's what's happening with Cal Quantrill. I haven't seen anything else injury-wise with Mr. Quantrill, but he did get roughed up in his last start as well. So, rip the Band-Aid off, rest and recharge, get those batteries back to, full power, because the Rockies, like I said, the last 5 or 6 weeks just look like a team that is filled with a bunch of dead men walking. They have looked lifeless. They've had some decent starts. Individuals have had some decent performances out of the batter's box, but the collective body of work for this organization has just been really, really bad over the last 5 or 6 weeks. And remember, this team had a winning month in May. They had one more win than they had lost. So maybe not a ton, but by technicality, the Rockies had a winning month. They faltered all throughout June, and July has not been much better. So we shall see what happens with the Rockies the rest of the way. But that is going to do it for me, folks, on today's episode of the Locked On Rockies POSTCAST. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. You can follow me on social media at Media by AP, and make sure to subscribe to the brand new Locked On Denver Sports YouTube channel so you never miss an episode. We'll be back at it again tomorrow, hopefully reacting to a good start from German Marquez. But other than that, enjoy your Saturday. And we'll see if the Rockies can get a win entering into the All-Star break, as they lose today to the New York Mets. Final score 7-3. The Rockies now at 33 and 63 on the season. The New York Mets at 49 and 45. And as we mentioned, it will be German Marquez making his season debut tomorrow against Jose Quintana. Quintana 4-5 with a 3.91 ERA and 71 strikeouts. And that is an 11:40 a.m. first pitch. So we'll talk to you guys tomorrow afternoon. And like I said, let's see if those Colorado Rockies can figure out a way to get back on track, enter into this All-Star break with at least a little bit of momentum, a little bit of good mojo as they try to, play better baseball here after the All-Star break. But that's going to do it for me, folks. Thank you guys so much, and we'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Enjoy your Saturday.